Does anyone actually play with these little green army men figures anymore? I remember having them as a kid, placing them all throughout the house, having pretend battles, making my own sound effects. But since the youngins of today have fancy technology with their iPads and Nintendo Switches, it wouldn't surprise me if they'd never even heard of these little guys. But, you know, that's okay, because we have video games that allow us to have fun without all that pesky imagination getting in the way, like Army Men, Sarge's Heroes. Army Men Sarge's Heroes came out in 1999 for the Nintendo 64, and the following year for other systems like the PlayStation, Dreamcast, and home computer. It was developed by the 3DO company, yes, the same company behind the ill-fated console of the same name, and is part of the incredibly long line of Army Men games. Seriously, before making this video, I had no idea just how many entries were in this series. I think Sarge's Heroes is a sequel to Army Men 3D, but I'm not entirely sure on that, so feel free to correct me. I actually borrowed this game from a friend back when I was a kid after playing it at his house, and I still have it. So, sorry, Alex. Anyway, let's go pop this bad boy in, shall we? Before we rush to the front lines of plastic warfare, every good green soldier should go through boot camp, so that's where I'm going to start. Here the game introduces us to the basic controls. You can jump like the most graceful of gazelles, crouch, go prone, barrel roll across the ground, and strafe side to side. Things feel somewhat clunky since you're only using one analog stick, so the camera isn't great at following you if you make any sudden turns, but it seems manageable. There's even an obstacle course to run with actual tan soldiers to fight and... Wait, tan soldiers? They're the bad guys. Why are they in a Green Army training base? Oh god. These must be POWs. Forced to participate in live fire exercises, condemned to kill or be killed with no chance of escape. Oh right, they're just made of plastic, so never mind. It's fine. Forget what I said. Now, if memory serves, I think you can find Vicky around here somewhere. Oh, Vicky is this lovely lady. I'm pretty sure she's in this general area somewhere. Oh, there she is. Oh, God! Vicky, what's wrong with your everything? I know the N64 isn't the most powerful system, but she looks like a blow-up doll someone quit inflating halfway through. Now that I think about it, all the characters do look a bit strange. The face of our hero, ladies and gentlemen.
Good to go.
I mean, they do represent what they're supposed to, I guess, but everyone seems a bit too... shiny. They kinda remind me of that Gummy statue from that one episode of The Simpsons. Anyone else? No? Just me? After murdering prisoners and getting comfortable with the controls, it's time to tackle the campaign. The game starts with some setup text that flat out states green is good and tan is evil. Well, that's a bit blunt, don't you think? I mean, good and evil is entirely subjective. It's not exactly fair to paint a whole group with a broad brush like that. In fact, it's insensitive, and I, for one, am incredibly disturbed by the blatant... Oh, no, never mind, that guy's evil. This is General Plastro, and he's your standard mustache-twirling villain. And before you think, oh, maybe he's just misunderstood, he even uses the word evil to describe his own plans later on, so... Tan, evil, got it. Things start off with disaster as the Tan Army launches a surprise attack on the Green base. Sarge here gets a very rude awakening and he's told by Colonel Grimm to meet him at the helipad for evac. And as I run out of my tent to take on the Tan menace, I find myself having some fun. The base is nice and wide, so you have plenty of room to maneuver, there's various weapons stashed around the base so you have a complete arsenal before too long, and shooting dudes feels alright. The game basically auto-aims for you, so you're able to run and gun with pretty reckless abandon, and since every soldier dies in one hit, you honestly feel pretty powerful. I'm having a pretty alright time. I'm starting to remember why I liked this game as a kid. Oh, fire! No, please, God, stop burning! Oh, God, please, no, please! Oh! Suddenly, certain other memories of this game are starting to surface. Familiar, negative feelings that I can't quite put my finger on. I'm sure it's nothing. Let's continue. Being sure to look out for the flamethrower guy this time around, I meet up with Colonel Grimm, who informs Sarge that his entire team, Bravo Company, has been captured. Sergeant Grimm make it to the evac chopper and escape the base. As the next mission starts, they're flying over a town when they spot a blue tank and immediately determine that because it's blue, it must be a spy. Join the Green Army. We profile everyone. Sarge is dropped off with instructions to capture him for interrogation. No problem, I've got a stockpile of weapons from the last mission, so this should be a piece of cake. Where are my weapons? I just had them! They're all gone? I know this is the N64, but you just gave me enough armaments for a small country, and now I'm back to my default rifle. To be honest though, the default M16 rifle is pretty much the only weapon you need for most of the game. No, seriously. Yeah, Sarge's Heroes does have a decent variety of weapons, but since you start every level with the rifle, ammunition for it is abundant, and every enemy dies in a single hit regardless of weapon, there's not much reason to use anything else other than the sniper rifle for far-off threats and explosives for the occasional tank. Speaking of tanks, there is one right at the start of this level. Intimidating to be sure, but thankfully I found some rockets, so all I have to do is pop out from cover and destroy it. We're walking in the air. Now seems like a good time to bring up that the auto-aim doesn't always work as intended. I mean, it usually does. Hell, it can be so effective that charging directly at a battalion of soldiers is often a perfectly viable strategy. But there are times where your shots just don't go where you need them to. So you'll find yourself in some pretty awkward situations when your aim decides to fire past the bad guys instead of at them. There is a first-person view for manual aiming, but not only are you a sitting duck while doing this, but it's so slow and clunky that it's just not all that useful. Getting back to the task at hand, I fight my way through the town, dealing with a few more tanks along the way, and finally end up catching that blue spy. Hey man, why's he gotta be blue? Because he is? Racist! Oh, for Christ's sake. Anyway, you corner the guy only for him to leap into a large and obvious portal that really should have gotten Sarge's attention from the sky, and go in after him. You emerge on the other side in what is probably one of the most memorable locations in the entire game. A bathtub. Okay, I know it might not seem like a cool setting, but when you take into account that you're supposed to be playing as tiny children's toys, it's actually pretty neat to have a setting that reflects that. Fighting around the entire rim of the tub, you find the spy, who puts up no resistance and just kind of starts following you. Okay. And then you have to retrace your steps all the way back to the portal. Alright, well, that doesn't seem so bad. It's not that far of a walk. Oh god, more fire! No, please, it burns! It hurts so much! Don't. Nope. No problem. It's okay. It's gotta play through the whole level again. Everything's okay. It's fine. It's fine. From here, you start rescuing Bravo Company, starting with Riff, your demolitions expert. Turns out to be a pretty straightforward mission, really. You get dropped off down the road from the compound and have to fight your way to it. Alright, good plan. Shoot some guys here, blow up a tank there. This is going pretty well so far. Having a good time again, all things considered. Ah! Where did you come from? No, why am I exploding? No! No! Have I mentioned there are no checkpoints at all? Of any kind? This isn't really a problem for the shorter levels, but when you're 20 minutes into a mission only to be insta-killed by some threat you couldn't see, it can be maddening. Sarge's Heroes really isn't that difficult of a game, but it's these moments of cheap enemy placement that will get you killed. In fact, I'm pretty sure the game spawns threats just out of view to catch you off guard, and usually they have flamethrowers or some other deadly weapon. This means that you'll sometimes want to move forward cautiously just to be ready for these ambushes, which conflicts with the kind of enjoyable run-and-gun gameplay you want to be doing. Continuing on, you find Riff, who doesn't seem to be in any hurry to outrun the explosive he's standing next to, and proceed to escort him out. Now, being a demolitions expert, you might expect Riff to provide backup for you, maybe fire a few rockets at armored vehicles with that rocket launcher he's holding. But no, he just follows you around, contributing nothing. Yeah, thanks for all the help, Riff. So glad I went through the trouble of rescuing you. Dick. Time to rescue the other members of Bravo Company. Another pretty straightforward mission of action and... Man, these levels are starting to blur together, aren't they? Earlier, I mentioned how it was kinda neat when you're actually fighting in settings that reflect you're playing as these little toy men, but most of the levels consist of dull green and brown environments that get boring pretty quickly. More location diversity and creativity would have gone a long way here. It's also from this mission on that snipers seem to be in abundance, so once again, the running and gunning is interrupted as you stop to peek out and line up shots with your sniper rifle. After a time, you stumble upon your minesweeper Hoover, who informs you of a nearby portal on the other side of a minefield. Well, that's convenient, isn't it? Good thing we have our minesweeper with us, who has the perfect skill set to help us out right now in our time of need. He doesn't do anything. Just kind of follows you around, leaving you to sweep all the mines in the area. Starting to notice a pattern here. And after you make it to the portal, Hoover just turns around and leaves, going back the way you came. Yeah, that's cool, man. I'll just take on the entire Tan army on my own. No biggie. Next, you're fighting through a pretty large garden. This is probably one of the longest levels in the game. There are a ton of soldiers around, as well as a few ants who aren't all that special, some tanks, and even a helicopter or two. There's so much to deal with that I was a solid 30 plus minutes into the level by the time I found my next squad mate, a guy named Thick. He's dumb. Get it? So you save him, go back through the portal, evac, but it turns out— ah! It's back! Kill it! Kill it! Kill it! Sorry. Turns out it's just Vicky who snuck a ride on the helicopter to get the big scoop about the portals. Yeah, great plan there. How were you expecting this to end well? To the surprise of no one, Vicky gets captured by the Tan army. Though if I had written the story, it probably would have gone more like this.
This is Vicky Grimm in enemy territory reporting this exclusive story. The Green Army has uncovered the source of—
Moving right along, your next squad mate Sharp needs to be rescued from a prison camp. You're actually given the option to save other POWs in the camp who are gray for some reason. Not sure how they fit into the whole color-coded ideology of this universe, but whatever. They don't do much to help you aside from die just as quickly as they're rescued, and serve to tank the frame rate harder than it's been all game, so not really worth the trouble. Eventually, you do locate Sharp and a group of other prisoners who are being forced into some sort of machine. They're being turned into spiders? Thank you, Craig, Critical Nobody, here on YouTube. I just have one very brief question. It's real quick. The fuck? Well, that's a thing I never thought I'd see. A bit later on, Sarge makes it his mission to rescue Vicky, so he storms the Tan stronghold and runs into another portal. Unfortunately, Sarge is ambushed on the other side of the portal and captured. Of course, instead of just shooting or melting Sarge right here and defeating his longtime foe, the evil General Plastro instead decides it's a better option to throw him into a hole. With his rifle. I guess he has a sense of fair play.
Think they expect us to give up and die down here?
Ugh, well that's a lame way to kill someone.
This is another long and annoying level taking place in a backyard. Contributing to that length is a confusing layout and quite a few of those cheap enemy placements, including some placed around a minefield you have to navigate, so you're always taking fire. Oh, and the sound completely broke out of nowhere for me about halfway through, so I spent the rest of the level listening to this. Also in this level is the last member of Bravo Company, Scorch. And guess what? He follows you to the portal while doing nothing to help. Okay, I need to bring up something that's been bothering me since pretty much the beginning of this game, and maybe some of you out there can answer it for me, but why the hell is this game called Army Men Sarge's Heroes? You'd think the heroes the title refers to and who are on the box art would be relevant in some way. Perhaps they'd play an important role in the story or band together to get Sarge out of a tight spot. But no! You locate them, you rescue them, and that's it. They're nowhere to be seen after that. And for the brief periods each squad mate is with you, they don't even fight by your side. Your demo guy doesn't blow anything up, the minesweeper sweeps no mines, and Scorch throws 0 flames. A more appropriate title for the game would have been something like Army Men, Hero Sarge, Army Men, Bravo Rescue, or Army Men. Seriously, are we ever gonna get an explanation for that whole turning dudes into spiders thing? No? Just checking. Sarge pursues Plastro and Vicky, doing a sweet gun trick in the process. After fighting his way through a sandbox, Sarge hitches a ride on a randomly placed rocket that drops him off at a kitchen. The kitchen counters you're running across are littered with cereal boxes and a ton of other crap, and a lot of the drawers around here are left just hanging open, forcing you to do a good deal of platforming. Highlight of this level for me is when all these guys come charging out of a toaster, which seems like an awful place for plastic to be. After making my way to Vicky, Sarge greets her with a kiss that I'd best describe as aggressive. Looks more like he's performing a Jason Voorhees execution to me, but to each their own. With no other way down from their current location, aside from the drawers I literally just climbed to get up here, Sarge and Vic decide the only way down is to jump, using a dog to break their fall. Said doggy, who I'm not convinced isn't actually one of those robot dogs given how he moves, doesn't exactly appreciate being used as a safety mat, so the pair get separated, with Sarge making his way into the living room whose halls have been decked out for the holidays. With an abundance of presents littered everywhere, you're forced to do even more awkward platforming. I'm not sure who thought this would be fun, but it isn't. The controls just weren't made for this kind of gameplay, so forcing so much of it in just sucks. You finally come across General Plastro, and although Sarge tries to gain the upper hand, Plastro has him right where he wants him. When suddenly in comes Poodle with the save, gobbling up Plastro and saving Sarge. On to the final level, the bathroom. Kinda fitting when you think about it. You know, we haven't seen a human this entire game. I can't help but wonder what their reaction would be if they happened to walk in on all this. Oh, sorry.
Good to go.
Anywho, you work your way up to the bathtub from earlier, dealing with more crappy platforming mixed with unfair sniper placement, take a moment to admire the sweet 3D toilet, and make it to the final portal. Somehow, Plastro has beaten you here and once again captured Vicky. Things seem hopeless as Sarge is kept at bay with a flamethrower. But suddenly Vicky creates an opening for Sarge to attack with a less than dignified tackle. Sarge aggressively teabags Plastro as Vicky escapes, only for Plastro to gain the upper hand once again. Thankfully, Sarge is saved by oh man! I take back all the jokes I made about Vicky because that is the scariest thing I've ever seen. So Plastro is eaten, Sarge escapes just as the final portal explodes, and everyone lives happily ever after. Or do they? Man, I remember having some fond memories of this game from when I was a kid, but I also remember that I never actually finished it until now. And I think I know why. Army Men Sarge's Heroes is kind of a bore with only fleeting moments of fun. It doesn't make the most of its own concept, it doesn't feel great to control, and its lack of checkpoints and occasional unfair enemy placement lead to moments of extreme frustration. When you're able to cut loose and charge forward blasting bad guys with reckless abandon, it can be enjoyable, but the longer the game goes on, the less and less of these moments there are. Oh, and there's also the fact that its title doesn't make any sense. Sarge's Heroes is not a bad game. I don't hate it, but it's also not very good either. I don't know how it stacks up against the other entries in the surprisingly long-running Army Men franchise, but this one really isn't worth your time. In fact, you'd probably have a better experience overall just playing with the actual Army Men toys.
You will never defeat us! Charge!
Machine gunners, lay down fire!
Oh no, my wife! Grenades out! Oh god, bodies everywhere! Throw your grenades!
Paratroopers, coming in!
Yeah!
Honey, is everything alright down there?
Go away, Mom! I'm having fun!
Hi there everyone, thank you so much for choosing to sit down and watch this dumb little video I've been slaving over for the past few weeks. I hope you got some entertainment out of it, but whether or not you did, please be sure to leave a rating and a comment down below. I always appreciate the feedback. And if you're new here and would like to see more, then please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And hey, why not check out my last video on Storybook Weaver? It's got bears in it, and bears are cool, so if you like bears, you'll probably like that video.